Alright, what's going on, guys? This is Limbo Gene Roblox or rail fanning channel here to describe how I make my maps, because I'm usually synonymous with making maps around the transit community. I don't know how it is right now, but this is like a little insider trade that I want to go over. So I am currently inside of Subway testing remastered. But although you could see one of my other map creations on Subway Train Simulator as well with Golden Bird Awesome, this experience is, as of right now, it is March 3rd, 2024, so you can still view the Subway Testing Remastered map, or the official one that has been distributed with Arcentic as well. So if you want to see the map, I don't know if it's quite obvious in this experience or not, but you can go ahead and see it if you go to any of the downstairs areas, and you can also go to the kiosks and see it right there. As you can see, that's the testing station right there, or the yard station. So I'm going to go down there and then give a brief overview of what it looks like, and I guess a mini tour of this area as well. Just for brief notice, I don't formally work for Subway testing anymore. However, I still do develop some models and do some graphic design for them. So if you don't know what this area is at, once again, I'm at the yard, right? This is the yard area, Department of Transportation building that's right beside the train station right here. This is the bus spawn. All right. So if you go over here to the bus command and operations center, you can control basically anyone in the public. Doesn't have to be an administrator or moderator. Anyone here could essentially control the statuses that appear on the kiosk of whether train status is delayed, on time, or whatever. So right here, this is where you will see my maps at, right here. So if you can see bottom left right here, it's created by me. All right. And here's what it looks like. Currently, we are at right here on the left side, this yard station, right? And then this little right here, where you see this is, we're right around this area right here where the building would be at. Oh, right here, actually, where it's listed on the map. All right. And if you head over to other areas as well, you can see it. So I'm just going to go ahead and walk over to this side here. There should be the train station right here. Right. Yard station. And as you can see, right, this map does appear and can be viewed anywhere within the experience. Okay. Here's the legend if you need more time to see it. There's a lot of stuff that goes on in here. I had a lot of creative freedom when I was working on this as well. Here's the server status is, you want to see it. No service for the local, apparently. I did not change that. So what I'm going to show you here is the entire process that I went through to make this map. It's a lot less complicated than you probably would think, but it does require some hefty knowledge on software that many of you probably are not aware of. And it is the industry standard that the MTA does use, to my knowledge, and basically any other transit agency that exists in the USA. So if you guys come here to the Adobe Creative Cloud website on it, it can be found at adobe.com. This will show you all the plans that you can use to acquire the software that I'm using. All you need really to achieve what I'm doing right here is Adobe Illustrator. It is $22.99 as of 2024 per month. But although you'd find much better value at going $35.99 a month, as the deal is right now, for the whole entire suite, because you'll find yourself using many of these other applications as time goes on, should you try to go into a graphic design or film or whatever. Anything that's like art related, you're going to be probably using the Adobe Creative Cloud. So if you want to follow along in this tutorial, you will need this subscription and you will need this application. You also need some level of a good PC. Gaming PC is optimal, but anything like a normal business PC should also perform just as well. Just make sure you're running about Windows 10 or higher, or 11. If you want to go that fast, about 8 gigabytes of RAM tops, or minimum, I would say. And then running at least a good Intel or AMD i5, Ryzen 5 or something. 3 is just as fine as if it can perform, but that's just recommendations. Alright guys, so what you're seeing here are 5 different documents throughout my tenure when I was on Roblox. I have 5 different maps. About 3 of them were in actual use, and only 2 of them are still in use today. and some were just never brought up to light, but I'm going to show you what I've made in the past. So throughout 2020, or 2019, late 2019, when Arcentic and the previous development team developed Subway Testing X, I was pitched to make a track layout map that would depict the new remastered version of Subway Testing, because at the time, Subway Testing Remastered wasn't updated to what it is now. It was instead given a chance to basically look like Subway Testing Simulator, or Subway Train Simulator, excuse me. Okay, and this map here is meant to reflect the track layout map for New York City by another artist. I'm not completely sure. I'll go ahead and leave a link to that down in the bottom there. So if you zoom in here, or if I zoom in, you can see these are all the tracks where you would see them, the platform length and everything. It's supposed to be as geographically accurate as possible. I'll move on to STS. This is the current STS map as of right now. However, at this moment, I have ended my agreement with them. So that means I am no longer in charge of making maps. So if they hire a new map developer, artist, or whatever, I'm not in charge of it anymore. But for about until like last year was when I stopped working with them in this regard. But if you zoom in here, you can see like these are all the stations, all the fonts, everything that you see corresponding here as well. You see, look around. I also want you guys to take a look at the layers that you see here, how everything's like nice and organized. Like I can immediately turn off or toggle any of these options if I wanted to. Like here's the borders if I wanted to remove the borders at the top and bottom. Here's the main, where everything like line related or train related could be seen here. This is the TransLink Railway, which has been discontinued as of this moment, or as of this time. In-dev stuff, if you want to see like all that nonsense regarding watermarks and all that, if you're like Ben the Miner, go for it. All right. And here's the background, which is like geographical things, right? It's very important to keep all of these like organized, so that way if a client or any developer or head dev asks for a specific thing changed in an instant, you can do that on the fly without having to worry about that. This is also industry standard if you're working in graphic design, so I thought that'd be interesting to know. Here's the TransLink Railway that I also worked on briefly for about 2 years. Fortunately, I never brought to fruition because I simply ran out of time or didn't have the time to do it. So this map is supposed to like mirror the PATH trains that you see in Manhattan, owned by the Port Authority of New York and New Jersey. As you can see, that these trains this system was meant to connect to not only subway testing, but also to Sunset Transit Authority, that's owned by Amy IDFP, STS by Golden Bird Awesome, and PTA from Potato Commuter. So these were all supposed to be connected once. I've given all that work to Flashbulb, and I have no idea what he's doing with it. Next one is an MTA Subway sign test. So here's another test that I also did as well. If you go into some of my creative works or some of my other things, you'll see that I uploaded some of these images onto Roblox Studio or the Roblox site so I can use them. You can't really get Helvetica onto Roblox Studio because of the limitations that the software is given, so I decided to make my own here to be as accurate to the original as possible. So you can achieve that inside of Adobe Illustrator as well. And finally, we have the Subway testing remastered map as it is right now. If you scroll around, this is what it looks like. Right? It gets very complicated here. This is the most complicated map that I've made to date as of this moment. Legends, headers, bus labels, all that, landmarks, station names, and you can basically toggle this on, off, and all of that, landmarks, reference images. It gets to be very, very crowded sometimes. So I'm going to be showing how to make, or giving you some basic tips on making this inside of Adobe Illustrator. So just do want to keep in mind that when you're working with this, we're talking about PC Illustrator, so anything that's on the iMac or the PC with Windows on it. I'm not sure about Linux operating systems. We're not talking about the ones that are installed on an iPad or an Android phone or any of those things. We're talking about development full on PC. All right, that's what I'm going to assume you'll be working on, and anything that is Adobe Illustrator CS5 and forward. So you could be using older versions of the Creative Suite if you want. but I'm just going to be strictly sticking to using one of the most modern versions right now. Except I have AI turned off because I'm not using that for obvious reasons. We're not going to be using that. Okay. I'm just going to go ahead and close off all these documents that showcase what I've done in the past. Okay. So from here, if you're going to want to start making your map, usually most of the time we go with square dimensions. Anything, the square, the length and width are the same, right? So I'm going to go head over to File, and then I'm going to click New. So from here, I usually work with physical documents, but in this case, if you're never planning to print this out, it really doesn't matter. So I'm just going to go ahead and go to Web, right? I'm going to go Web Large around there, right? Or anything. You can actually just go with Art and Illustration as well. But I'm going to I'll keep it on Art and Illustration because Web has all these weird margins and stuff. So we're going to go to around 1280 by 1024, hopefully, or letter. You can set it at letter, and then I'm going to change this to pixels because we're not using points. Pixels are each square that makes up your screen, right? The average person's dimensions of a screen is 1920 by 1080, but we want to keep it at around 1000 by 1000, so we have enough space to work with. 1000 pixels means that the width and height of the document is going to be 1000 squares, top to bottom, or the canvas. We're going to be working RGB color, which stands for red, green, blue, which means we're working on a digital screen. If it was CMYK, that'd be cyan, magenta, yellow, and black. Since we're not printing out anything, assuming RGB should work. 72 ppi is fine. That is the default. We're not working with any special effects, so that's okay. Preview mode is default. There's no bleed. Only one artboard for now. Orientation doesn't matter because it's 1000 by 1000. It's a square. Wouldn't matter which way it goes. You can name this whatever you want, but I'm just going to call it untitled for now. So this is the interface, okay? I'm going to be giving you a basic rundown of everything that you see here. There's a good chance that your interface will likely not look like this. This is how I've set it up throughout the years because at the beginning I was used to Photoshop, so I moved all the toolbars where I wanted them. So on the left side, this is the toolbar. These are all the tools that you'll be using when you're drawing out the map. All right. So this is a move tool. This is a direct selection tool, so on and so forth. I'm not going to go into depth of what all these tools do, but I'm just going to give you the basic ones that you need to know. The biggest ones you're going to know is the shape tool, which is rectangle and ellipse, the line tool, the pen tool, and then the text tool. Those are the fundamentals. All right. Top right here, I put a swatches panel because you're going to be using this a lot. Right. Also have another color slider. If you're used to web colors or hexadecimal, you're able to use those as well. Configuring any of these is based on a light spectrum. So you change red here, right? If I want to get rid of all the red here, green and blue, make like a cyan-like color, right? If I get rid of all the green, it gives you blue. If you move all the slider here, it's black. But I do recommend using swatches. It's much more easier. Gradients. I think we all know what gradients are, right? We draw out like here. It fades from one color to the next. I don't use these too often, but if you want to use it, by all means. All right. Underneath that, I have the three here. I have symbols, appearance, brushes. We're not using brushes here because we're not using a Wacom tablet, and properties. This properties panel we're going to be using for almost nearly all and any modifications we make to any tools. Okay. Keyboard increment, this is also important if you're moving an object, all right? Most of the time, that'd probably be set to like 10 pixels. I put it on 0.5 so you can get like really minuscule details. You can't see it, but like I'm moving that with just arrow keys left and right. And you can see it like moving very slowly versus like if it was 10, okay, 10 pixels means it's moving 10 squares every time, then you'll see like it gets very choppy like that. All right, so normally I keep that about 0.05. And here's the appearance. Pretty self-explanatory. When you select an object, it will show you all the attributes for the object. So the stroke means basically the lines that are outside of an object. As you see here. So this is a square, and you see like another outline of it. It's like if you draw, that would be like stroking the outside of it. So this is where you would change all those options. You can make these corners, you see how it's a square like that. We can make them rounded out like that. You see right there. You can make the stroke on the line that you see here, this path on the center, the inside, or the outside. It's very situational, okay? And then you also have the dash lines, which is very incredibly important if you want to like create dash lines like this, if you want, make it look like it's a cutout or something. So here, I'll draw it a little bit bigger and then create, you know, like when you used to do like cutouts for things in kindergarten or something, you would see these dotted lines. That's where this comes from. So dashes like that. And you can even take that a step further if you wanted to, because you can apply profiles to them. Let's say it's in the center here, right? You can apply profiles to these so that way it can have a little cut arrow here. So if you want to go for that, you could if you wanted to, but we're not working with this. Next thing we have is symbols. Symbols is very important because you can drag out multiple instances of a singular drawing and then modify them on the fly without having to modify all of them at different points. And, you know, it gets messy. Symbols is basically if you're using the same drawing more than once and you want to be able to change it anytime on the fly and change them all at once, symbols are your best friend. I'll explain more of that later. Okay, and finally we have down here is the layers panel. Layers panels give you the ability to toggle between certain shapes and drawings. So let's say I have like a black square here, and then I put another one up here on this second layer, right? I create a new layer by going to the bottom right here and creating a new layer. You can click this trash bin to delete a layer. Okay. So we have a black and white square. Anything that's above a layer will be on top of it in appearance. So you see how this white square, right? It's set as layer 2. If I move that under here by clicking and dragging under here, layer 1, it will go behind the black square, as you can see. Right. These layers can be turned on and off in preview. This will also render in print and whatnot. Okay. If you're printing, turning these eyeballs off will also disable them or won't show it when it's printing, or exporting when you're working with PNG. Okay. So if you click this eyeball, it will show or hide the objects. Same thing with this one here. And then these empty squares here are locks. So these are very useful if you are drawing the background like geography. So if you're drawing like a park in the back, or you want some drawings of landmarks that you don't want to modify, you can click this little lock, meaning I can't select it. So normally if this is unlocked, I can like move this all over the place, right? But if I put the lock on it, you can't, it cannot be selected. So this makes it very useful if I'm like drawing over this, or can't see that. If you're drawing all over this, it won't affect any paths, or if I'm something like that, right? It will modify it. Right. Here are some extra like shout out toolbars that you may use in your endeavors. Here are some transform alignments. If you want to know what these are, if you want to know how to access any of these and they're not showing up, you click window, you click align, or you can go to gradient right there. Swatches is down here. All of these toolbars are available in this Windows panel right here. So if I want to draw a square and I want to center it on here on this piece, you can come to align right here by going to window, align, and then clicking this little horizontal align center. If you want to do it horizontally, you click this one right here. So that now it's perfectly centered in this document. Pathfinder is another one. If you want to combine shapes like this, two squares that want to go together, you can use these different modes. Think of think of these like the unioning process when you're using Roblox Studio. Roblox Studio, you can negate, you can union. These are basically that, but with a little bit more extra steps. So basically your equivalent for this right here, this would be unioning options. Unioning, but you can't ununion them. Once you do it, it's permanent unless you control Z it. Okay. If you want to negate, whatever objects on top will cut out whatever is on the bottom here. So it will make this square here an L when you negate. Like that. We have another one here that's called intersect. So anything that's in between two objects will be cut out and the rest will be removed. So it will create a square here when we use intersect. And finally, the last and final one is the exact opposite. It will cut whatever's intersecting and leave everything on the outside as excluding. Right? As you can see there. I don't know if you can see it, but if I move it out here, it's a little bit more apparent. Right? This is intersect, negate, union, and exclusion. Now that we've gotten most of the fundamentals out of the way, I'm going to start drawing. All right. I'm going to assume that you have a sketch or something. I'm just going to be working with stops on the fly. Some fonts that you're going to need to get a hold of if you want to go for like an MTA effect. Just want to make that clear. Everyone should know it. It's Helvetica Bold, right? Everyone should know it, right? This font also costs money, but I'm sure you guys have your own way of acquiring it, right? To get the exact Helvetica Bold, you're using Helvetica New LT Standard 75 Bold. This is the one that the NTA uses throughout the entirety of its system on maps and all such. It's also used in the CTA if you live in Chicago. All right. So this is your font is like your best friend for the most part, okay? If you want any alternatives, you can use the Arial. Arial's installed on almost every device nowadays. I can't. Here's the difference between them both. There's a little bit of a difference that you can see here, all right? But there's also fonts that some people also don't tell you about, which I figured out through my own means. All right, here's some other honorable shoutouts. Like, let's say you're trying to draw the S bullet from the shuttle, or the Q train, for that fact. When you're looking at the maps, right, or you're looking at any of those kiosks, right? These Qs obviously don't look, and the S also doesn't look like it. If you're like really minute onto that detail, you'll notice like that. Hey, that S doesn't look like the S that I see in the map, or this Q doesn't look like, you know, it doesn't have this little section here. That's because they're different fonts. So for these ones, or for these letters in particular, or actually for a matter of fact, the R train as well. Like if you look at the R here, right? It's like curved like that, and we all know that the R is just like straightened out. So the font for that is called Berthold Grotesque. Okay. This font is also paid for, but I'm pretty sure none of you will have. Some of you will probably not have an issue in getting these, right? Here's an example of these being seen with that. As you can see, wow, the Q actually looks like a Q, and the R actually looks like an R. Just keep in mind that these are the medium versions. Do not use the bold ones. They use, the NTA uses like their own versions of weights to these fonts. We're going to be messing with those later, so that way they look more closer. But yeah, these are the main three that you're going to really care about. Actually, these two. Arial's only if you have, Arial's only if you don't have Helvetica. So you want to get started on your first route. What you normally want to do is get a line segment tool, or you can use the pen tool. Now, if you want to use the line tool because you don't know, you're used to like Procreate or something, or Google Drawings, it's very simple. It just draws a line out, all right? To increase the weight of the stroke, you go to the right here and you can increase the weight of it or decrease it, okay? Like this. The higher the number, the heavier the weight is. The lower the number, the thinner it is. Okay, you can even mess with the opacity and stuff if you want to make it like fade in or fade out. All right, so let's just assume that this right here, I'm going to set it to around 5 to be simple. Okay, by clicking the V key or pressing or clicking this black arrow here, selection tool, right? You can select the objects and move it around. To activate the line tool that I just did, you can press the line you can click this, or you can press the backslash key on your keyboard. It's above your enter key, right? Holding shift keeps the line straight, diagonal, perfectly by about 45 degrees each time, okay? So you can see the little degree number there. This is 0, 45, 90, 135, 180, 225, 270, 115, and then we're back to 360 here, okay? So holding shift keeps it nice and straight. So I'm going off of memory here. Let me just fix that. Let me draw a line here. Okay, set that to 5 points. Okay. We're going to rename this layer by double-clicking on it. We're going to call this train lines. Okay. Again, we want to keep everything separate so it can be toggled on and off at any time. Right. We're going to assume that this terminal down here is, we're going to put a express stop here. we're gonna make this color here. We're gonna make sure here, press X to reverse which selection you're making here. Okay. So if you want a little rundown here, this right here, you see here, this first one here, this box that's just like full solid fill, right? That's the fill of an object. So right here, you'll see that more clearly. The inside that's colored in, this is the fill of an object. So if I change it to black, it's black. Okay, makes sense. And then if I press X, it selects the stroke instead here. Okay. So we want to change that stroke because, you know, the D line's not black, right? Okay. So we change the stroke by selecting this. Make sure that this stroke is selected. Otherwise, you're going to be changing the fill. All right. We come here to swatches and we're going to pick this hot orange right here because it's the closest. If you want to get more like serious on that, you can go to MTA Subway non-mech lecture, I think. And it'll give you all the hexadecimal codes. So if you want to get real serious, you can just come to Wikipedia, copy, paste this into color, and bada bing, bada boom. Now you have the perfect orange. Okay, so we're assuming this is the D line. We're going to grab the ellipse tool by right-clicking the rectangle tool here. Clicking ellipse, press D to reset your fill and stroke to white and black. We're going to hold shift, so that way it draws out a perfect circle. We're going to increase the stroke of this for about 1, like that. And bada bing, bada boom. We now have our first, like, MTA train stop right here. You can see it looks a little inaccurate. I can try to get, like, more by toning that fill down and then shrinking this. Because I'm just, like, one of those detail people. So we now have some sort of a line here, okay? As you can see, I'm holding shift to move this as well. It keeps it like on the line. You can see this, it's a little bit visible. Whenever you see those purple lines, those are smart guides. They'll help hold stuff in place. So that way it's perfectly in the center. Okay. Now, if you want to make this a local stop, all you have to do, okay, you press D, right? To keep that 1 pixel, right? Resets to black and white. All you have to do is press Shift X on your keyboard to reverse it. And it's as simple as that. Shift X to make express, Shift X to make local, okay? Because when you press Shift X, it reverses the stroke and the fills. As you can see there, it reverses it. So whatever the fill was, it'll pick up the stroke. Whatever the stroke was, it'll pick up what the fill was. So this is very good on the fly to use. So just keep that in mind. Most of the time when it's a local stop, the stroke is a little bit thinner. So it'll be about 0.5 pixels rather than 1, as you can see. So you can bring this back up to 1, like that. And you can see it's very, very noticeable. All right. So I'm going to delete these now. Layer 3, edit, paste in front. I'll place it right in the same spot. Control F is the hotkey, or Command F if you're on the Mac. Okay. So now we're going to rename this layer stops. Double click on it to rename. So from here, we want to name these stations. Let's remember, press T on the keyboard to go ahead and select the type tool. Then you press left key once to create a single line writing. So from here, we're going to change our font to Helvetica because that is the standard when you're working with the MTA, right? So they're using Helvetica New Bold right here. Now, what they don't tell you also in the MTA is that these are actually a little bit of an illusion. It's not perfect Helvetica like this. It's actually a little bit more condensed, but it's not Helvetica condensed. So what I usually like to do is grab the side here, still move. I still have this move key, or the V right here, selected. Grab the right side here and move this, drag this in so that way it kind of like squashes a little bit. All right. It just looks like that. I don't know why the designers over there did that. And if you want to size this down perfectly in constraint, you can use this font size here. I normally don't use these. I usually just go eyeballing it. So I hold shift and then grab a corner here. And while I'm holding shift, you see, like, even if I move my thing left and right, it always keeps that proportion perfect. Okay, right here. It's about that size maybe, or a little bit bigger. We're calling this Bay 50th Street. The alignment's on the left side. You come down to paragraph, just like Microsoft Word here. These are all the options. Move that to about there. And then what's usually under that is the D, right? because it indicates that it's the D line. So I'll go ahead and change the leading. Leading is basically the space between like two lines of text. So let me just give you an example. Let's assume that's like another line or something. When you decrease these, it reduces the amount of space in between those areas. So I'm actually going to grab up a copy of the MTA map just for reference, because why not? Okay. Maps. We're going to grab the subway map. All right. So use the bottom right here as reference. As you can see, yep. You see how it's like condensed a little bit. It looks like they added a little bit of a skew to it because the graphics department is drunk or something. All right. This is skewed. It's not supposed to be, but here. We're going to grab a reference of that. That D is a little bit smaller, so I'm going to go in and reduce the size of that to around maybe 7 or 6. Actually, we can make it 7.5 in decimal points here. Make that lead about 8. It looks perfect. Like that. Okay. And also, if you want to know the keyboard shortcut for going back and forth between like two windows instantly on Windows, it's Alt Tab, Command Tab on the Mac. Okay. I'm going to squish this in a little bit more because don't kill the message right here. That's what it looks like. They squished it in. I can get a little bit more precise with this in the characters tab, maybe around here, about 85, I think. It's a good amount. Right. This basically stretches left to right. Okay, you can move this. See how it works. Okay. If you don't know where this character panel is, it's to go to Window, Type, and then Character. Control T is a hotkey. Right. So since this station is Coney Island, Stowell Avenue, we're going to drag out this circle. It's a little bit bigger because that's how that one is there. So now here's the fun part. We're going to be making the bullets from scratch. Okay. So that this is where your typography and like eye for detail is going to come in. Okay. It's going to be very crucial for you to like eyeball out of this because I'm a detail kind of guy. So where the letter is placed is like very crucial to giving it that MTA vibe to it. So I'm going to go ahead and get an eyedropper tool, which here you can access by pressing I on the keyboard, or you can click down here with a little eyedropper icon. I'm going to hold down the Shift key to just grab the color, not the appearance, because if you just click once, it just grabs the appearance, which means we're going to be grabbing the stroke here, and we don't want that. We want to get the fill actually on spot there, right? So I'm going to hold the Shift key. I'm going to make sure that the fill is the primary square in front. I'm going to hold the Shift and then click on that, so that way now our fill is orange. Make sure that there's no stroke. If you don't want a stroke, you can press the / key on the keyboard, which is where the question mark is at. Right? It'll remove the fill or it'll remove the stroke. All right. I'm going to draw out a circle here. Like that. So the font that's used for the D line, to my knowledge, is Helvetica. I'm going to go in and get rid of that squish on there because we don't need that, right? It's going to be full 100. I'm going to set the alignment of the paragraph to the center. I'm going to change the fill color to white. To change the fill color to white, we could use the swatches panel. Okay. I'm going to drag this out a little bit. And just use the bullet here as a reference. I'm going to use the arrow keys, left and right, to get that more into place. That looks pretty on spot. I'm going to shrink that a little bit. Like so. Now, I'm going to take both of these objects together. I'm going to drag my move tool and select these two. Whatever's inside the box is what will be selected. I'm going to press Control G on the keyboard to group these objects together. What this does is basically every time I select it, I'll move them all at once rather than one at a time. As you see, like with these are not in groups. To ungroup them, you can right click and then click Ungroup. And then it will make them separate objects, but we want to keep them grouped. Okay. So from here, making them grouped, I'm going to press F8 on the keyboard. If you're on a laptop, you're going to look for the FN key, which is probably on the bottom left or bottom right, and then press the F8 key. All right. What this is going to do is going to create a symbol. We're creating a symbol because we're going to be using multiple instances of this icon. And if we want to change it on the fly, we can do that near instantly. Let me show you how that is. D-train bullet. Okay. Actually, before I do that, make sure that it is a dynamic symbol and it is a graphic, not a movie clip. We want to keep it as a graphic. D-train bullet. Let me show you an example of how that works. Let's assume that I have a D line here and then, or D-train bullet there, and I have multiple like D's all over the place. Now what you could do is just change all of them, right, at the same time. But why do that when you can just double click on this? Change one to blue. Now all of them are blue. Saves you the time. You don't have to do this. It just saves you time later if you're interested. Okay, so there's the D. Okay, so now we have, we're going to name this station, call this Coney Island, Stillwell Avenue. And guys, make sure you're using your right typography here. There's a difference between all these hyphens, okay? In typography, this is a hyphen. This is incorrect, okay? A hyphen is used for subtraction, or if you're, actually not even subtraction. This hyphen is used if you're using to connect two different names, or like you're over like extending in the next paragraph. Make sure you're using an N dash. Something like that. Has to be this one. It can't be anything else. This is an N dash EN. N for Nancy, okay. You can access this that whole menu there by just typing out a normal dash, right? And then selecting it, and then selecting one of these. It's the one all the way over to the left here. This is an M dash, which are just for other things. You don't need to get too much into that. It's an N dash. Here, we're going to be writing D, F, N, Q. To get these dots here, you have two options. You can Google literally middle dot ASCII. You can get this one here. Or if you're a tech wizard, you could hold on only on Windows operating systems. You can hold the Alt key, and then with the number pad, has to be the number pad, you type Alt 0149. And every time you do that, it'll give you one of these middle dots here, and then you can shrink them down. But most of the time, you're probably going to want to use this one because this one's too big, right? So I'll probably just wind up using this one here. So I'll go ahead and do that. And that should do the job for that. Yep. And if you're really that kind of a guy that's going to get triggered if these dots aren't centered enough, what you could do is adjust the hold on. Go back down to the character here. There's a thing here called baseline shift. Only affects that one character there. I'm going to make it 0.2 or 0.3. Makes it a little bit higher. It has a little A, and then you're like setting that one up. Then you just basically copy and paste it. Control C, Control V, Control V. So you have a basic recreation, kind of okay-ish. I don't know how much of a detail person you're going to be, but this looks pretty on spot for myself, okay? I'm going to draw out the other bullets with a square because it's a terminal, right? So draw that. I'm going to copy and paste this D here. If you want to access the symbol or enter the group and you just want to select a single object or modify it, you can just double click on it. And it'll put the object into isolation mode. And to exit that isolation mode, you just double click anywhere outside of that object. Okay. I'm going to shrink this down to around 7, maybe. That looks perfect almost. And it does look perfect. I'm going to set that D in there, like around there. Looks perfect to me. I'm going to group this. I'm going to use this as a group instead of a symbol because I'm not going to be making 10,000 copies of these. But you could hypothetically still make them symbols and modify them on the fly if you want to, if you have that many terminals, right? Move that over. Copy and paste this. You could do Control C, Control Shift V to copy and paste, right? Or what I usually like to do is hold down the Alt key, Option key on the Mac. Click, select the object, hold the Alt or Option, and then click and drag while holding Shift, so that way it stays nice and aligned. To make a perfect copy of it without having to, use my keyboard 24/7. I'm just going to change this letter to the F. Move that over a little bit, just like that. I'm going to duplicate these two again by holding Alt Option again, holding Shift to make sure it's in place. It's around there. Okay. And we want this to be N, and we want this to be Q. So since we know the Q line is not using Helvetica, we're going to go ahead and switch to Berthold on that. Okay. I don't know if it still shows up. It doesn't. Most MTA websites will usually depict the Q train still using that old Q. All right. Okay. So we know that the Q and N are not orange, so I'm going to select both of these. Now I'm going to introduce you to a thing called the direct selection tool. It's white as compared to the black. You can press A on the keyboard to activate this tool. Direct selection tool is used for selecting paths, but a great thing about this tool is that it doesn't select groups. So if you need to on the fly access a particular object in a group, or even symbols sometimes, and just change the color instantly, what you can do is just press the inside of it. Make sure it's the fill and not like the line of this, because then you're selecting the stroke of that, and then you don't want to change that because that looks whack. Right, so make sure you're selecting like the fill, right? Make sure you see that outline of whatever color that corresponds to that layer, right? Select this. While holding the shift key, you can select the next object, then both of these are selected at the same time. I'm going to come over to color on the top right here, the panel here, and we're going to grab the hexadecimal right here, copy paste, just like that. Then I'm going to take these two here, still using the direct selection tool. I'm going to select both of these letters here and change the color to black. Now look at that. We have two perfect recreations of it for the most part, except this cute. You can leave it as Helvetica bold. It really doesn't matter. Whatever you want, all right? As you can see here, there's like a little outline here. I don't know if you can see it. There's like a gray outline. I'm going to go ahead and add that as well. It looks like to be on the outside, about 1 pixel stroke of a gray. Actually, we're going to make that 0.25. Is that on the center? It looks like it's on the outside almost, as if 0.1 maybe, or 0.2, a little bit thinner. Maybe 0.15. Change that stroke color to something in the middle right here. Click strokes, click about, whoops, didn't have stroke layer activated, now we do. Maybe a little bit lighter, something like that. Now you see, now we have that gray outline that they use so that we can distinguish the yellow better. Okay. All right, so that pretty much nails down these. I'm going to lower down the font size on these briefly. Right here. Actually, that's a bad idea. I'll leave it as it is. Come here. Place that around there. Right here. Just like that. And that looks like to be mostly a faithful recreation. I'm going to set this alignment to the right side. Okay, so that way, I guess, it looks more better. Like that. Okay, so what we want to do now is add more to this line, because we want to extend this route, right? We don't want to just leave it one whole straight line. What we're going to do is go ahead and press the P key to activate our pen tool, or you can look for the fountain pen icon here. Now, pressing these little corners here, where you see here, this is called a vector point right here. Imagine it like the vertices of an object, or a shape of something. You know, polygons, each of them have the points. Those points are vertices. Okay, so with the pen tool activated, we're going to click this little dot here. All right, so what that does is makes the pen like latch onto that or continue the path. Okay, I'm going to hold the shift key to keep it aligned, and then we're going to click anywhere on the left here to extend it. Now, if you can't see this path here, like if you can't see where the projection of this line is going, you can go to your settings and turn that on. So as you can see right here, selection and anchor display, enable rubber band for pen tool and curvature tool. These will show the projection of where the path is going when you're using the pen tool. Very useful. Now that we have this other path here, what we can do is use the direct selection tool to grab this specific vertex. You can click it, drag it left and right to extend it or shorten it, like that. If we want to make this area curved, all you got to do is select using the direct selection tool still, grab this corner here, make sure we have only this vertex selected. Then you look for this little ball right here and then pull on it to curve it. Just like that. Right there, you can see the curve that the MTA did, right? Just like that. Since 25th Avenue is there, I'm going to select these two here. Actually, before I do, I'm going to set these and move them to a new layer. Call them bullets. This, I'm going to cut it. Make sure that it's on my clipboard. Control-Shift-V. Control-X. Control-Shift-V. Command-V on the Mac. Command-X. Command-Shift-V on the Mac as well. Okay. I'm going to go ahead and create duplicates of these. Holding Alt here, Alt drag, right? 25th Avenue, right? It's still D, like that. And I'll get to around 62nd Street. So that way it covers most of the basics. I'm going to recreate most of Lower Bensonhurst here, or Lower Brooklyn. Just so you can get like a basic idea, right? So using again the pen tool, I'm going to go ahead and drag out another line right here, like that. I'm holding shift when I'm doing this. And I'm going to grab this little anchor corner here, curve it, because that's what they did, right? 25th Avenue, Bay Parkway. Using abbreviations here, because that's what the map does as well. Let's take a space, press the enter key there. To add that to the next line. Also, discretion notice is that I'm not going to teach you how to make these little icons here. You can grab these off the internet, wherever, and just import them into Illustrator. Or any transparent image, that'll also do the job. Okay? Just going over, like, the bare bone minimum here. Alright. Drag another local station here. This one's 20th Avenue. Around there. 18th Avenue. So I just want to let you know that if this is your first time using Adobe Illustrator, it is fine to make mistakes or not know everything. It's just more of a program that you use over time, and you'll get to know it as the more you use it. It's very useful if you know the program, because it is it's like I said, the industry standard that most people will use if you were going to work at a graphic design job, or even if you wanted to work for the MTA. It's like it's a vital tool to understand. And once you master this, you can pretty much master almost any other Adobe program, because their entire interface is very similar. Okay, so 60 section. I'm aware that this slant here is a little bit more extreme than what you see here. I'm aware of that. Okay, so with that, you already got like a solid line going, right? And then the D is already like, let me make this out even further, okay? It's up there, that's around 55th Street. So we're getting into near 8th Avenue, Chinatown. You have Fort Hamilton Parkway coming up, 50th Street. Okay. If you want to know how to drag like this, you can click and hold the mouse scroll wheel, or you can just hold the space button. I use both interchangeably. Okay. Finally, we have, I'm going to grab this down. Pen tool to extend this path. Once again, we're curving this. Fort Hamilton Parkway. This is on 3 different lines, so that will function perfectly, just like that. And then we have 9th Avenue. Okay. Just like that. So we have most of the line completed, almost, right? I'm just going to put this D here to give a faithful recreation of it, okay? All right, so that's most of that. All right, and we're gonna move on to this right here, the 86th Street part. If you want to add this on there, it's very simple. All you gotta do is just grab a portion of this, holding Alt here to duplicate this, right? What I'm gonna go ahead and do is remove, or actually thin this out, and then make this stroke here black. Okay, Now, when I press the T key, what's going to happen here is, actually, I'm going to cut this in half a little bit. If you want to remove points on here, what you can do is I'm going to go enter isolation mode, double click the path. I'm going to grab the direct selection tool, select the points or vertices here I don't need, and just press the delete or backspace key on the Mac. All right. So I want to be left with something that I can like write on top of. So let's say I want to write on this curve right here. So I'm going to leave that curve there, and then for that, I'm going to press the T key and then look for this little icon here until it looks like a little, it says path icon or path text there. And then you see like the curve with dotted lines. I'm going to press that. I'm going to write 86th Street. As you can see, that's like, it's flipped, right? It's not looking right. I'm going to make these all caps right there. I'm going to press that little icon to make all caps. This is once again the character panel. If you don't know where it is, Control T, Command T on the Mac, window, character, or type character, window, type, and then character. All right, I'm going to reset the width here back to its default. This is in the wrong direction. I'm going to go in, by using these little squares here, I can move this around, have more freedom with it. But this is on the wrong side. So if I want to flip it over, I'm going to go click type, type on path, and then type on a path options right here. I'm going to flip that preview. So there we go. Looks on the correct side. And that should be it. And the spacing, I can also try to see if this is, if what affects it. I don't think any of these affect it. No, so I'm just going to leave it auto. And these look pretty, you can mess with these settings here to give it more of a better look. I'm going to go with an descender, like that. And none of these are going to do anything because we're not working with skews here. So we're going to leave that on flip. Now, if you could cheat it if you want to, just add spaces here, okay? To give the effect just like that, yeah. Since I want this on the curve, what I'm going to do, I'm actually going to change this font to, it's not Berhold, this is Helvetica. We change this to black, because that's the font that's used there. Or no, it's just bold, okay. Bold. Then we add spacing between these letters. Just like that. Maybe about 75. That should do it. Make sure that path is along that path. Looks good. I'm going to keep that near the right-hand side. Because that is what they did. Because brains. I'm going to change this to like a dark gray. Something. Yeah, right on there. That should do it. Actually darker. There we go. You have like a pretty faithful recreation of the NYC style like that. Maybe these bullets could be a little bit thicker. Maybe you could also hypothetically make these symbols, but I don't want to go too serious with that. Actually, let me go ahead. Local, stop. That way we keep the graphic, dynamic. I'm gonna replace all of these with this other one. This is what I mean when you save time. Now that these are all symbols here, I can just go ahead and double click on this and just change them all at once if I wanted to, maybe about 0.55. As you see, like, if I pump it all up, then they all get pumped up. If I pump this to 1, they'll all get pumped to 1. But usually I just keep it like about 0.5, 0.75. That might honestly just do the job as it is. Or maybe something like 0.6. Yeah, I think that looks a lot better. Okay. I'm gonna go ahead and curve this up super quickly. Because we know the D line curves up there, just like that. Maybe not as extreme on there. Okay. So now working on the end line. Now, if you guys noticed, the end line has like this little gray thing going on, but not to worry. This is very easy to take care of. We're gonna go ahead and create a new line path here. Make sure it's yellow. I'm gonna grab the eyedropper tool, hold shift, change the color of it. Hold on. Change the color of that, just like that. Now, to change this to make sure that it is gray like this, we're gonna have to do a little bit of an extra step. So to do that, we go to Appearance, and we go ahead and click this button right here, we're adding a new stroke. What this does is basically put a stroke on top of the stroke that's already there. And we're going to thin out this is just like the layers format. So whatever's on top is what is coming on top first, and whatever's on the bottom here is going to appear in the back. So what that is around, like, I'm going to grab a light gray or something, because that's what we see, right? Around a light gray. Let me see which gray was it specifically. It was that one, right? So I'm going to grab that one there too. Right around there. Okay, so we can't see this. So since this one's in the background, what we're going to do is have to actually thin out this stroke here, the yellow one, by about 1 pixel. Actually, you can make this about 3.5. We're going to do a little bit of subtraction, 3.75 maybe, or 0.6, 3.6. And I think that should achieve that effect very well the same. And it's actually darker, apparently. Hold on. Like that, around there. That's actually perfect, just like that. See, if you zoom in, there's like a dark thing to it. 3.5 maybe. And I think that looks good. So it's the same width, so you shouldn't have the same problem. And from here on out, it should be the exact same in terms of drawing. Or whenever you draw the path, it should look exactly the same. Right? I'm going to go ahead and take this corner here, holding shift to keep that constraint down. Holding shift again, get this corner here, because the end tray moves to the right, up like that. I'm not holding shift right now. I'm just going to go eyeball it. Now I'm holding shift again to around 60 seconds around here. And then we hold shift again to go this way. All right. Since we don't want this D line going on top of that, I'm just going to go ahead and rearrange that by holding... 1 second, let me move this down. Right there. Actually, it can stay on top. If you're having trouble where you want certain things on top and bottom, all you got to do is hold the control key, command key on the Mac, and then pressing the bracket keys. The left one brings it down to the bottom. The right one brings it up top. Holding shift will bring it all the way to the front. Holding shift will bring it all the way to the back. So command shift and then left bracket will bring it all the way to the back, or control shift, whichever, as you can see. So we actually want that in front because that's what it wants. Stops. Okay. I'm going to grab this corner and curve it. Actually, going to grab both of these corners and curve it. Like that. Interlocks perfectly. Maybe this one a little bit less extreme. Like that. Grab this corner. I'm going to curve that one as well. It's actually very curvy. So now it's just basically the same protocol here from here on out, right? Just grab it here, 86th Street. So we've now officially gotten to our first transfer point right here. As you can see, it says New Tricked Avenue on the end line. To create a transfer point, it's really actually simple. All right, so I'm going to go ahead and drag out here. It says in the corner here, I'm going to call this New Utrecht Avenue. Transfer is available to the D train, right? So I draw that here. If you don't want to rotate, you just move your cursor up here. Make sure you see the bounding box, right? And then you grab this corner right here where you see the double arrow, holding shift, rotates 45 degrees, just like that one. Okay. So what we're going to do is going to press the D key on the keyboard to reset our colors to white and black strokes, right? White fill, black stroke. I'm going to get rid of the fill. I'm going to go to my line tool here, and I'm going to draw a simple line that connects these two like that. And lo and behold, we have now a transfer point. And would you guess that stroke actually looks phenomenal as it is? I'm going to move that to the top, shift up, just one, and I think that does it. That is your transfer point. You can make this a little bit thicker if you want to, but I don't think it really needs it because it already looks perfect as it is. I can even add 1.25 if I'm really much of a detail wizard. All right, so pretty simple. You usually want to get in the very center of both of these circles here. You can even group these if you want to be organization guy. It looks a little bit off, but to be honest, it's a janky map that the MTA made, all right? Fort Hamilton Parkway. So now we've kind of run into our second roadblock here. Okay, so I'm gonna go ahead and actually get rid of one of these corners here. Track that. And then this is supposed to converge into the R line right here, right? I'm gonna move this down a little bit so it emulates that curve, steep curve there. This is New Utrecht, and then we move this here. This is 8th Avenue on the end line. 8th Avenue. I don't know why that 8 is weird looking from a distance. Okay. Left alignment. Okay. So we kind of ran into an issue here with this stroke here. As you can see, like, because the way that we have this stroke set up, there is an issue here. Okay, so we have this extra thing here for stroke, right? Stroke path is 4. So if we try to actually duplicate this, because if we try to draw like this, right, and then let's say we wanted to draw the R line, it would do that, right? And even if we did like add our new stroke here, added a new stroke, and then we changed it to the yellow that we see. Actually, I should make this a swatch so I can access it later. Let me add this as a swatch. Let's call this yellow bullet, or Broadway. Put that down here to new folder. These are just for my own personal reference. You don't have to use these colors. I'm just going to call these bullet colors. Okay. And that one should, yeah, that should do it. Okay. So this one here, let's assume that I wanted to change that to that, right? As you can see, right, it's like a line there. That's like kind of doesn't look great. Okay. Let's assume like we want it. You don't see that over here, right? So what the MTA does, okay, they kind of cheese it, right? When they drew this map, whoever drew it wasn't exactly like doing a great job, or they cheesed it. What they did here was they drew their own. They drew a thing to cover it up and didn't really solve the issue per se. So what they did is they drew like a special shape. I'm doing this with the pen tool right now. So what they did is did this, and then covered it up like this, and. Yeah. I guess at first glance, you know, it gets the job done, right? It's like, yeah, it looks fine, right? But it's not really how you want to go about things, because it's like cheesing it. So what I like to do to fix this problem is remove this bottom stroke here. You see, what I'm going to do is group these two together, and then I'm going to add a stroke to it. Okay. So this stroke here is going to be actually now, this is going to be the new yellow that you see here, okay? 3.5 here. We're going to change this to the new yellow, okay? And then under here, we're going to change this original stroke here. We're going to change this to a black, or the gray that you saw there before, this one. So now, whatever's in this group will now forever have that, you know, it looks clean. There's nothing on it, right? Like, so if let's say I wanted to draw like another line on this, with this yellow, right? And I drew out like this way. I don't know why it's not doing it for some reason. Okay. I think I got the stroke on. Okay. So what if I drew out another line like this? You see that? It's crazy. It's just like it automatically latches on. You see that? So whatever you add here, make sure you're using the because technically the group, right? It's adding a stroke to that. So whatever you add here, wow, it's like it's magic. It just connects itself by itself. You see that? So that's what I do, but you can use the other way if it's easier for you. Okay. So now that we are near the end line, we're going to start building out the R line. Okay, so if we're going to make a long stop like this, all you need to do is make one by using the rectangle tool. I'm going to press D on my keyboard to set these colors back to default. I'm going to draw out a basic like square that looks about the diameter about the same as the local stops one that we've used before, and then make it around like that. And then by pressing the A key on the keyboard, it should reveal these circles here. Then you just bring them in and close them in like that. And now you have an express stop that looks very close to what you see there. So now that you have one, now you can basically stretch this out however you like. Like no matter how long, okay, you just grab the corner here or like this little box, bounding box here. You can stretch this out as much as you want. You can make that a circle too if you want. This can be however long you want to I want to go over that. Okay, so move that to around there. So now what we do have to put there is called 36th Street. And this can be a little bit closer because we don't need legibility on that down there. 36th Street. Right? So from here on out, this is basically every other stop that goes beyond that. You can just draw out, put D and R, line these together. And to evenly distribute them, there's another feature here, distribute objects. You click that one there to vertically distribute them. Or if I want it farther apart, I can press that. Okay. Actually, they're closer, so I'm going to do that. Just like that. I'm going to put that there. And now you just add your local stops from here, right? Very easy peasy. 25th Street, and so on and so forth. Prospect Street. I'm not going to go much farther because you know how the whole process goes. I already showed you how to create transfers like this, right? The possibilities are endless for the most part on that. Move that closer so that way it looks a little bit better. I'm just going to add a little bit more extra details on the side here because this is what we're seeing here. What we see, Utrecht Avenue. These could be actually closer together. So about 25 maybe. Can change, send it to center. This is 4th Avenue. Now we're going to use that same technique that you saw there. Copy and paste. Move that. Pressing the / call this 4th Avenue. This should be Berthold. Should be. Going to remove one of these points because we don't need that. We move that here. Now you've got yourself a curved line here. Shrink that a little bit. Actually, I should shrink all these down to about 5. Make sure these are all also like on their own separate layers as well. So that way you're not having any issues. I'm actually going to do that real quick. I'm going to call these street names. These are all in their own separate layer now. So if I toggle that on and off, bullets, train bullets look pretty fine to me. These can be toggled on and off, like you see there. Stops, so I can turn those on and off whenever I feel like it. Feels great, right? And now we're going to work on the geography a little bit. So because everything from here on out, it's basically up to you. Okay, these this F train, you just throw a bullet there, right? So I'm going to give you some more techniques on, let's see, if I wanted to draw the background here. I'm just going to use, take a quick screenshot because I need the color palette. Use this as a reference. I don't think anything's in this here, so I'm going to just call this ref. Okay, we're going to dim the images to 50%. Actually, turn off the ref, my bad. Or set this outside because we're not using this. Anything that's like outside of it won't get rendered. Okay, so for the first part, we're going to create a new layer, call this geography. I'm going to grab the color here. It's a blue of something, okay? Start with the ocean first because it starts at the bottom, okay? This is the blue. Now I just need to draw out a basic outline of Brooklyn, grabbing this orange-like color there. I'm just gonna go very rough here. It's not meant to be actually geographically accurate, but I'm gonna get as close as I can to the original using this pen tool here, right? It's around like that, I'd say, there, and then we curve upwards. It comes down this way. Then we have Brighton Beach a little bit there. And these paths can be edited at any time, so just keep that in mind. I'm going to go with a rough outline here, whatever you want here. I'm going to use that. Okay. So now for these areas that name neighborhoods, this font is Helvetica Bold Condensed in all caps. And the font size is a little bit smaller than the others. I'm going to make a new layer and call this Neighborhoods. It's going to be like a blue, so we can grab that color actually by pressing I on the eyedrop. Grab that color there. Steal it. That one. Okay. Press T to activate the type tool. And type here, we're going to just go with Bensonhurst as the first one. This is supposed to be blue, and it's supposed to be Helvetica Condensed. So what we're going to do is change our fonts here. Make sure you have your font. Helvetica Condensed. That should do it. And that font looks about the right size. So you could increase it by one, maybe like there, right? And then you have Bay Ridge on the other corner here. And down here you have Coney Island. This is Brighton Beach. And so on and so forth. I'm not going to draw out the Q line or B line, hopefully yet. This looks pretty close to it. Alright, and if you want a section like that, all you got to do is grab the pen tool and just draw out an incomplete path. So I'll show you what that does in a little bit. Okay, so for like Dyker Park here, you see this imperfection. This is amateur work. Sorry, MTA. Again, not knowing how to use your software correctly. Okay, so if we actually wanted to draw Dyker Park here, alright, what I'm going to do is I'm going to grab the pen tool and start dragging out in straight lines. So like, that's around here, right? Looks like that. I'm going to hold the shift key to make sure it's safe, or it's straight. Keep going like this, holding shift again, holding shift. Not holding shift anymore because we want to go at a diagonal angle, going this way. And holding shift because we need that to be straight. We come down here. I'm going to remove the fill. So you should see like this little outline here, okay? I'm going to remove this and come back to the geography layer because we're working with geography. So in order to split this up so you can make it like green, okay? What I'm going to do is select the path that we just made right here. Make sure it has no fill, no strokes, okay? I'm going to also simultaneously select this layer, which I made for Brooklyn, and I'm going to go to Pathfinder. I'm going to click Divide. So what that does is make these two different shapes that we can mess with, right? And these are now in a group. It made a group for us. So if we want to make that our little park area, now what you have is a perfect, no imperfection, as you can see, right? No imperfections. Okay, I'm going to move this further up. And that font down there is actually, you have a choice. I'm going to go with Times New Roman because that's the most obvious option should be. And it's actually been condensed form, it seems like. So I'm going to go to Times New Roman. It's one that everyone has, so this one should be a no-brainer, right? I'm going to shrink it down to about that. And it looks like they kerned it a little bit closer to each other. So I'm going to go ahead and reduce that to 0. I think that's honestly right there. That's it. We get that to, looks like they've made that a little bit smaller as well. Let's see where they brought it. Okay. Get as close as I can to that. Getting close. I think that's good enough. We'll see. Yep, it's almost, it looks near identical for the most part. Most people probably won't be able to catch the difference. It's like that. It's actually a little bit bigger in terms of scale to this map that we're making here. So now that those are separate, I'm just going to grab the lasso tool and select these here so that we can move this down. It's a little bit off because these are two different shapes now, but we can easily rectify that by using this lasso tool. You can just use this for selecting objects, okay? Or selecting points like that. Move that to the right. What I'm looking for is to be about lined around there. Now I'm going to create a new layer and call this streets, because we want to get all those white streaks down. This will be the last step for making this look like the NTM map. Right here, where you see all those white lines, these are representing streets. All you got to do is grab the pen tool, change this to a white stroke, get rid of the fill, about 2 points, and that should be it. That should finish the recreation of this map. It goes to around here, and then you just drag it out to 86 right there. And do I have a thing for that? No, I did not. I drew on the wrong layer. My bad. Streets, okay. D, Shift X, get rid of the fill. Make that about 2 points so you can see it. It should be above geography, but below train lines. Drag that out to, there we go. Now you have, I'm going to lock this because we don't need to mess with that. We also don't need to mess with that. I'm going to lock everything else except the streets. Okay. You see there, you now have that white line that represents that street. It looks like it goes all the way to the end. This one you don't have to be as like picky about it. Okay, you have one for Avenue U as well. Goes all the way down like somewhere like that. And you also have one for Bay Ridge and Fort Hamilton as well, which is crazy. It goes like this, and then it goes up like that or something. And it like splits into 2 lines? Like, what? Like that. And then you have one final one for whatever this street was. I think on the map that's 5th Avenue. Okay. So yeah, that's pretty much it. And if you want to add like street names for that, we can just unlock this layer here. We call it street names. Come down here and just name this 86th Street. Easy peasy. Just move that on there. And yeah, that is basically a rundown of how you make like a very simple like Metro map in Illustrator. Hopefully that was useful. This is made for like a Roblox audience. If you've never touched an Illustrator product in your life, or you want to just build on your skills, hopefully this helped. That's pretty much it. And if you wanted to know how to make like legends or any of that, I'll give you more tips on that in a future lesson. If you want, leave a comment down below, and I'll go ahead and go more into depth about how to make all this. I actually should, one more thing also go over is if you want, I don't know if any routes still do this, but there's dotted lines here. If you want that, all you have to do is go to the train lines here and then change this right here. Like, I'm going to just select the D train as an example. And remember the dash lines that we went over before? You just click that, and then you change that to set the gap to about like 1, and then you increase the dash to something more or less. So something like here, there's like a 1.5, and it's shorter, right? I'll set that to around that, and I'll set the dash to 1.5. There you go. Now you have a dashed D train line. All right, so for the final step that you want to do when working with a document like this, or whatever map that you're working with, is you're going to want to export this to a PNG or JPEG that can be uploaded to Roblox. Now, I do want to make clear that the higher the resolution of the image, meaning the more pixels that you see in this document, since this is 1000 by 1000, the more pixels that you use, the more pixelated it will be when you upload to Roblox due to its compression. So even though it may look clear in the original image, when you send it to Roblox, it's going to look basically very pixelated and such, okay? So here, we already finished like a portion of the map here. So in order to, let's first nail down a few things. I'm going to press Shift-O on the keyboard to open the artboard tool. And then you'll see these little bounding boxes over here, similar to when you're selecting objects, okay? So you see these bounding areas, you're going to want to move them into the area that you want it cropped to. So like I want the map to reach at least down here a little bit, okay? And then I'm going to shrink it to around here because that's what I'm looking at. Okay. Once you have that, make sure that this black outline is covering what you want only to be exported. Maybe down here because these lines are not going exactly the correct way. And I don't have the F and trains line, right? Okay, let me switch this back to normal because this is kind of cursed. So let's assume that this is the whole map that we just made and we want to export this. I'm going to go up to the top here by clicking File and then Export and then Save for Web. Now, depending on which one of these you use, I'm used to using Save for Web Legacy, but you could also use this one here, Export for Screens. But I'm going to use this one because this is the one that is most versatile as of this moment. All right, so you see how like tiny that is, and this is like its natural size here. So what you're seeing or here, right, the 1000 by 1000, or was originally 1000 by 1000, but this is like what it is at scale. So in order to make this bigger, all you need to do is make sure that this link is on, that retains the original image proportions, and then up this percent from anywhere between 1 to 1000. So the higher this number, the more bigger the image will be scaled up, and it will not be pixelated because it's a vector application. So I usually go with PNG 24 because it has the ability to keep the things transparent. If there's any transparency, you can just toggle this on and off if you don't want to make it transparent. JPEG doesn't have this ability. I much prefer PNGs when working with everything. So this is very tiny. Like obviously, if I zoom into this, you're gonna see like there's so much pixelation going on. So we're gonna fix that by just simply typing in 333%. So now the new width will be 221, 2100 by 1000. That's because it's been scaled up 333%. Let's see what it looks like at 100%, and it looks pretty clear, right? This is what the image is going to look like when it's rendered. Most of the time, I'm going to keep it on clip to artboard, which basically means it crops where you want it. All right. And then I usually keep this at art optimized. You can also change it to type optimized. Basically makes the text sharper versus the art sections if you want it to look or have a more sharper feel to it on the typography. As you can see, without any optimizations, it would look like very anti-aliasy, and you don't want that. So art optimized is best if you want to make all the strokes look clean, and type optimized makes the text more clear. But I would consider this more art, so this is what it would look like. And then you would click save into whatever location you want. So from here, I'm going to show you how to upload your recently created map that you just made within Adobe Illustrator to the Roblox page. So I'm at the website create.roblox.com. Make sure you're logged into your Roblox account. On the top right, you'll be able to see it. This page shows you basically everything you've ever created, any worlds, any experiences that you've ever made in Roblox, or if you're part of any groups, any experiences that you've been recently modifying within it. So to upload your recent map, you're going to want to go to Creations, then you click Development Items, and then you click Decals. And then from here, you'll see the little drop-down window here where it says Upload your asset, drag and drop media here to upload. All right, the maximum file size is 20 megabytes, and they accept .jpeg, .png, .tga, or a bitmap file. So I'm going to go ahead and upload the asset. Once you have your file selected, make sure you name it. So I'm just going to call this map tutorial, and I'm going to give it a basic description like this map was created in Adobe Illustrator. And then you're going to want to click upload. Hopefully Roblox doesn't tag me for this because it shouldn't have any tags. Okay. And yeah, that's basically from there. And then when you're done with that, you're going to want to head over to Roblox Studio. Make sure you're connected to the internet for everything when you're here. All right. You're going to want to head over to the toolbox on the left-hand side. If you can't see that, you can go in and open that through the view, and then you click toolbox, which is over here, I think. Not right here. You click this to open the toolbox. And then you click these little 4 bags here, the inventory. All right. Then you want to click on this My Models here and then click My Images. So once you have that, there's our newly created decal. All right. That's what it looks like. Don't worry if it looks blank here. It happens when you first upload it. It takes a while for Roblox to generate a thumbnail for it. Make sure it's appropriate and we're not, creating bad images of anything. All right, so I have a pre-built station here. If you guys don't know what this is, this was the TransLink Railway that was originally developed for the Transit Federation or the United Transit Communities and then was ultimately scrapped. Right, so this is just a mock-up station that I'm just going to use to throw around. All right, so I'm just going to go ahead and build a quick map thing. All right, so I'm going to put a part here and then just quickly make like a stand for it. I'm going to make sure this material manager is also have this on smooth plastic. I love working with smooth plastics. Very, very useful. And I'm going to make a small cutout right around there. I'm working with 0.05 studs, so that way it can get a little bit more precise without it having to get too wild. Another one. And then I'm going to duplicate that one because we're going to negate both of these to subtract from this main object here. There we go. That in just a bit. We're going to recolor this to a bright white so that way we can distinguish what's not and what is. Okay, I'm going to group these two together. Here is our main like model thing that is going to be used for where we're going to put our map. So from here, what you can do is just click and hold and then drag it onto here. And then there you go. You have the map. Now, like I already said before, remember how when we exported this image, it was like about 6,000 or 2,000 pixels or 6K or so, right? And Roblox compressed it. So just be careful when you're making really high detailed maps. And if you ever run into issues where this is getting pixelated, you may want to make the text a little bit bigger so that way it's more clear. So hopefully that wraps that up. If you are having any troubles, you should definitely seek Roblox support for uploading images. Make sure, as I said, that the image is appropriate in order to use it inside of your assets for your Roblox experience. So that just does about it for anything regarding maps or basic map recreations, creations, or whichever inside of Adobe Illustrator. If you guys liked it, make sure you leave a like and then share it around if anyone else has any questions on how to create train maps. Another thing that I do want to bring up as well is if you have any questions whatsoever, please leave them down in the comments below. And if you guys would like to see an extension or series that further shows you how to create more accurate maps pertaining to the MTA or custom styles, just let me know down in the comments and then I'll go ahead and create more videos for that. And so anyways, I'll see you guys in the next one.